Today we're going to look at what happens when you divide or multiply by a negative number. And we watched a video that shows the pink and purple dots and what happened when we added and subtracted, and then how those pink and purple dots reverse locations once you multiplied them by that -2. So the number that was what I call creating the action, creating those dots to move, was that -2. Well, what we have to do then, remember they flipped positions. So the one was originally greater than the other is now less than the other. So what happens when we are working with inequalities and we divide or multiply by a -2 or any negative number, what we have to do to keep the inequality true is we have to flip the symbol. So let me show you what that looks like as we work through a problem. So we've got here, we have -3x is less than 18. So that means that when we multiply -3 times a number, we get a solution that is less than 18. Well, in order to kind of undo this problem and isolate x, we have to complete the opposite operation. So in order to undo -3 being multiplied by x, the opposite is to divide both sides by -3. Well, picture those dots. So what's going to happen when I divide by this -3, that -3 is creating the action, those dots are going to flip on that number line. So on this side we cancel out. Because my dots are flipping, my inequality has to flip. So instead of this being a less than, it's actually going to be greater than. And now 18 divided by -3, well, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And 18 divided by 3 is 6. So we end up with x being greater than -6. So now I'm going to plot this on my number line. I'm going to graph it out. At the -6, I'm going to need an open point. And x is everything greater than the -6. Greater than is going to be to the right. So I'm going to shade in this direction. And I'm going to complete my check and make sure that that's correct. So I just use -3. So is -3 greater than -6? Well, yes. So that is absolutely a true statement. So now let's look at another one. This time we're going to look at one that uses division. So I have here a -y/6 greater than -7. Now, sometimes kids get all confused when you have this negative symbol with a fraction. Sometimes you're going to see it written next to the y. Sometimes you're going to see it written next to the actual fraction symbol, which confuses kids the most. Or sometimes you're going to see it written with the -6. Oops, sorry, my little eraser got a little crazy. With the 6. Now, it doesn't really matter. You assign it to one of the numbers. And in this case, we're going to keep it with the 6. The 6 is going to be what's doing our action. The 6 is dividing the y. So in order to eliminate that y being divided by -6, I have to do the opposite. So instead of dividing by -6, I'm going to multiply by -6. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this by -6. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 6 divided by 6 is 1. I'm sorry, 6 times -6 over 1 times y over -6 cancels out to y over 1. So we have our little y here is greater than. And then we have a -7 times a -6. Well, we are multiplying by a negative. So what's going to happen is we're going to flip our symbol because those dots would flip on that number line. So my symbol now flips from greater than to less than. And I have a negative times a negative, which gives me a positive, and 7 times 6 is 42. So then y is less than 42. So at my 42, I'm going to put my open point. Y is anything that's less than 42. And look at that. I wrote a negative here and I should not have. Sorry, guys. So let's graph this. Y is less than 42. And that's going to come to the left.